My wife smirked and said, "Men line up for me every day." I smiled and said, "I know. Mike, Jake, Chris, and Brandon." Her 4 best friends were sitting right next to her. Those were their husbands. Part 3. I paid the check. $387. Left a 30% tip because our waiter had witnessed the worst dinner party in the history of that restaurant and deserved combat pay. Then I drove home, to the house that was in my name, in my car that was in my name, to pack a bag and check into the Marriott downtown. Not the Hilton on Route 9. I have standards. Victoria didn't come home that night. She stayed at her mother's. I knew because her mother called me at 7 a.m. the next morning with the voice of a woman who'd been briefed by a very unreliable narrator. "Nathan, Victoria is devastated. She says you humiliated her in front of her friends over some old texts that meant nothing. She says you're controlling and paranoid and that you've been monitoring her phone." "Helen, did she tell you the texts were with 4 married men? All of them husbands of her closest friends?" Pause. "Did she tell you I have photographs of her at the Hilton with one of them?" Longer pause. "Did she tell you that she announced at our anniversary dinner, in front of 8 people, that men line up for her every day, and that I simply confirmed which men she was referring to?" The longest pause of all. Then Helen said, very quietly, "I'll call you back." She didn't call back. My attorney, Sandra Chen, filed the divorce petition on Monday. Fault-based. Adultery. Supported by 1,100 screenshots, PI photographs, GPS-correlated timeline data, and the kind of digital evidence chain that makes opposing counsel physically uncomfortable. Victoria's attorney, a guy named Ross Weber who advertised on bus benches, called Sandra within a week requesting a cooperative approach to dissolution. Sandra's response: "My client cooperated for 5 years. Your client cooperated with 4 other men. We're past cooperative." The discovery phase was brutal, for Victoria. Not because I was aggressive. Because the evidence was. Sandra submitted the documentation in 3 organized binders. The judge reviewed them in chambers. When he emerged, he looked at Victoria's counsel and said, "Is your client prepared to stipulate to the factual basis of these exhibits, or does she intend to contest them?" Ross Weber looked at Victoria. Victoria looked at the table. Ross said, "We'll stipulate." The judge nodded once. That simplifies things. It simplified things significantly. The house, my name, my down payment, my mortgage, stayed with me. Victoria's claim to equity was reduced under the state's fault consideration statute. She received 25% of the marital appreciation, paid out over 12 months. No lump sum. No house. No car. Alimony was denied. The judge cited the adultery finding and noted that Victoria was employed full-time as a marketing coordinator, a fact she'd conveniently downplayed during the marriage by describing her job as just a little thing I do while simultaneously earning $64,000 a year. She could support herself. The court agreed. The fallout outside the courtroom was worse than anything inside it. Danielle filed for divorce from Mike within 2 weeks. The Hilton photos made that an easy decision. Mike moved into a studio apartment near his office and started posting LinkedIn articles about personal growth and accountability. He did not tag Victoria. Alyssa didn't file immediately. She and Jake did 3 months of couples therapy. I heard through a mutual contact that Jake had showed the therapist the full message thread, Victoria's messages, not just his, and the therapist had used the word predatory to describe Victoria's pattern of initiation. Alyssa and Jake are still together. Barely. But still. Morgan and Chris separated quietly. No public drama. No social media. Morgan simply moved her things out one Saturday, changed her phone number, and disappeared from every group chat, every brunch list, every book club roster. She removed herself from the entire social ecosystem that Victoria had contaminated. Clean. Total. Like someone sterilizing a wound. Tessa and Brandon survived, mostly because Brandon's thread was short and hadn't crossed certain lines. But Tessa told him, in words I later heard secondhand, "You were 9 days from becoming Mike. The only reason you're still here is because Nathan found out before she finished working on you." Brandon, to his credit, didn't argue. Victoria tried to rebuild. She called each friend individually. She tried the playbook: minimization, redirection, victim framing. Nathan manipulated the situation. He took things out of context. I was in a dark place. It wasn't what it looked like. None of them answered. Not Danielle. Not Alyssa. Not Morgan. Not Tessa. 4 women who'd sat at brunches with Victoria for years, who'd trusted her in their homes, around their husbands, around their children, none of them picked up the phone. Victoria learned what every person eventually learns who builds their identity on being desired. When the desirability is revealed to be predatory, the audience doesn't just leave. They lock the door. She moved into a 1-bedroom near the highway. She got a cat. She posted a quote on Instagram, something about standing in your truth when the world tries to silence you. It got 14 likes. All from strangers. I stayed in the house. Repainted the bedroom. Replaced the mattress. Gave the kitchen table, the one where she practiced her power plays, to a neighbor who needed furniture. I bought a new table. Smaller. Just 2 chairs. One for me. One for whoever earns it. Someone at work asked me if I regretted doing it the way I did. At the dinner. In front of everyone. With the phone on the table between the bread and the candle. I thought about it. Then I said, she spent 14 months going after 4 married men. She sat across from their wives and smiled. She built a system designed to make every man in our circle available to her while making every woman in our circle a fool. She did it quietly, carefully, and with the confidence of someone who believed she'd never be caught. And then she sat at our anniversary dinner, looked me in the eye, and bragged about it. Not directly, but the meaning was there. She wanted the table to know she was wanted. She wanted me to feel small. So I made her feel seen. Not small, seen. Every name. Every husband. Every friend who trusted her. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a speech. I just said 4 names and let the table do the rest. Victoria wanted men to line up for her. They did. And when I read the roster, every woman at that table finally understood what the line was actually for. She smirked and said men line up for her every day. She was right. They did. They just stopped the moment their wives found out who was running the queue.